Hi YouTube, welcome to another edition of Horror Hands, and for this video I'm going to go through all the Blu-rays and DVDs that I picked up in the month of September. Let's get straight to it. First up from Severin, I picked up A Day of Judgment, which is kind of like a sort of rural slasher film from the early 80s. It's about this kind of Grim Reaper type character that comes into this town and strikes down all of kind of like the wrongdoers, the people that have cheated one another or that have just done sort of shady stuff. They kind of meet their retribution at the hands of this mysterious figure, and he looks really cool, but I gotta say the movie is so slow. It focuses more on the drama of the characters and the stuff going on around the town, that it just gets really dull, which is a shame because it did have a good idea initially. But yeah, this is more like a Sunday morning soap opera rather than a slasher film that it kind of suggests. There are some good moments in it, and as I say, if you like a bit of daytime TV drama, you may actually get something from this one. But as a slasher film, as a horror film, it didn't deliver, unfortunately. It was far too slow. Next up from Severin, I picked up A Scream in the Street. Not had a chance to watch this one yet. It looks like a crazy little movie. Something like a cross-dressing killer or something like that. So I'll check this one out soon. If you've seen this one, let me know what you think. Next up, this is from one of the Vinegar Syndrome partner labels. This is Asylum of Terror, which is like a bunch of people, this like spook house, haunted house, attraction, fairground thing sets up in this town, and all the townspeople go and see it. But there's like a killer going round inside the haunted house, killing people off for real. I do love these kind of movies, the ones that sort of take place in a haunted house attraction. And this was kind of cool. It's got a killer going around killing people, and looking very similar to Jason Voorhees with a hockey mask. There's also like a Michael Myers looking killer in this one. So very kind of derivative, but that was pretty awesome. This one's just kind of hampered by its no budget limitations. It's another sort of shot on video movie from the partner labels, and another one that kind of, it's got a bit of something. It's got a bit of creativity and imagination here and there, but it's so cheaply made. And this one in particular looked pretty rough. Even though this is the Blu-ray release, it does look like a cheap, grainy VHS, which took me out of it a little bit. But if you like shot on video, give it a try. It's got a couple of cool looking killers in it. So yeah, not too bad for what it is. Next up from SRS, I picked up Bad CGI Sharks. This is my surprise pickup of the month. This was way better than what I was expecting. I kind of thought this would be like a brainless throwaway CGI shark movie, something akin to like Sharknado or worse, if that's possible. But this one, this is a pretty good movie actually. It's got a lot more going for it than what you might expect. It's about these two estranged brothers who are they sort of come back together. One moves in with the other, and they always were like really imaginative when they were kids, and they wrote all these screenplays for these like killer shark movies and these monster movies, and they are attacked by bad CGI sharks. They float about the place going after the brothers and killing a few people off. So it is silly. It does deliver on the terrible looking CGI sharks, but there's a lot of heart in this movie. It's written rather well. It's funny. It focuses a lot more on kind of the relationship between the brothers and the childhood that they had and that kind of thing. It's got way more of a stronger narrative than what I ever gave this movie credit for. Definitely kind of more of a quirky little comedy film, but the CGI shark elements in this are really cool. And it just feels like it's been made by someone that's like a movie fan themselves. So yeah, Bad CGI Sharks, a way better film than I was expecting. Definitely check this one out if you want something a bit more quirky with sort of comedy elements and things like that. So yeah, I got to give this one credit. I really enjoyed this movie way more than I thought I would. Next up, from Dark Star, I picked up The Becomers. This one, interesting one. It's about these like shape-shifting aliens on Earth, and they're just trying to get through life on Earth. But every so often they have to switch human bodies, so they take over various people and sort of become them, but they're aliens, so they don't really know what's up. It's an okay one. It's a quirky little indie movie, quite character driven, quite charming in places. Some of it's okay. I didn't quite know what to make of it, to be honest. It's not my kind of film. The alien creatures in it look pretty cool. They have like these bright, glowing purple, red eyes. It kind of changes throughout, and there's a little bit of like a gooey body horror here and there in this one. But yeah, this is just, I don't know, another one of these kind of slow burn indie horror type movies, and I don't quite know what they're going for or getting at, but certainly an interesting little movie. I didn't hate it, just not quite my kind of movie, but interesting nonetheless. Next up, from MVD, I picked up Bloodcraft. Not had a chance to watch this one yet, don't know what it's about. Clearly it's ripping off The Craft, which is one of my favourite horror films from the 90s, so this one needs to bring it, really, if it's going to set itself up to look anything like that movie. So yeah, I will check this one out soon and see what it's like. Next up, from Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up Bloodline, which was an absolute first for me. I'd never heard of this movie until Vinegar Syndrome released it. I haven't checked it out yet. It sounds like a good one. It sounds a bit like a sort of an American Giallo type thing, a bit sort of Brian De Palma-ish. But the cast in this movie, it's like Audrey Hepburn, James Mason, Omar Sharif. There's some real heavy hitters in this movie. I'm very intrigued to see what it's like and how like Audrey Hepburn goes around in this one. So yeah, we'll check this one out soon and yeah, see what it's like. If you've seen Bloodline, if you know of this movie, let me know. But definitely an interesting release here, at least on paper, from Vinegar Syndrome. Next up, from Severin, I picked up Blood Moon. This is an Australian slasher film from the late 80s, taking place on this like high school campus, and there's a killer going around killing off students. Starts out pretty slow at first, quite a bit of talking, quite a bit of character development, but it's okay. It kind of sort of kept me guessing as to who was kind of who and what was going on. And then there's a few decent kills towards the end, some decent gore in it, and the killer uses this kind of barbed wire implement, which is pretty nasty. So yeah, once this one picked up a bit, I kind of got into it. So yeah, not the best slasher film I've ever seen, but yeah, definitely an okay one and a pretty nice release from Severin. So good to add this one to the collection. I think it's been a pretty obscure one up until now. Next up, from Dark Side Releasing, I picked up Brides of Satan. Now, I watched this one right at the beginning of the month. I can't quite remember all of it, but I know I liked it. And I know this one kind of surprised me. It didn't go where I thought it would go. It's kind of like this sort of neon-drenched sort of grindhouse type movie. It starts out like a lot of sort of like these leather-clad gang members and sort of that kind of thing, a bit Troma-esque. And I think they like attack this couple and they kill the guy and the woman gets away. And it's a bit of like a revenge flick, and they're kind of like these Satan-worshipping gang members. But the woman, she gets away, and she kind of comes across this old guy living in like this junkyard, but he trains her how to fight. So there's almost like a martial arts element to this, like the old sort of 90s fighting films where, like, you know, like Van Damme or someone will be trained up to avenge the bad guys. So yeah, I thought it was okay. It's got a little bit of like, I don't know, like Tarantino elements to it as well, in terms of like this strong female taking revenge, that kind of thing. So yeah, it wasn't bad. It really didn't go where I thought it would go. Wasn't sort of quite as trashy as what I thought it would be. So yeah, if you kind of like your revenge type movies, you know, with a bit of like trauma thrown in, then maybe give this one a try. So yeah, I thought it was pretty decent for what it was. Next up from Unearthed Films, this is a recent release from them. This is Confessions of a Serial Killer. Never seen this before. I've known of it for a long time. It's from the late 80s, and it's about this serial killer who's been caught by the cops and is in an interrogation room, and he's quite cooperative. He sits down and tells them all about what he's done to people over the years, and just sort of candidly says about how he like picks up women and how he kills them, and he's got a couple of accomplices, and yeah, just sort of talks them through how he's been a serial killer over the last few years. It's not too bad. Very gritty, dark movie. Some quite nasty moments in it. A bit drawn out here and there, but overall not a bad film. Very, very reminiscent to Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. It has the same sort of morose tone that did. Although I would say Michael Rooker is a lot more magnetically menacing than what the guy in this one is. But if you liked Henry, I think you definitely enjoy this one. It's on the same kind of playing field. Not sure where this kind of Hannibal Lecter cover comes from. That has nothing to do with the movie. Not even sure if that's actually the guy that plays the serial killer. But nonetheless, it's an interesting, albeit downbeat movie. But good to finally see this one and add it to the collection. Right, next up, I picked up a bit of a box set from Vinegar Syndrome. This is the Cruel Britannia Killer Thrillers box set. So this features the movies Craze, Penny Gold and Crucible of Terror. Gotta say, none of these movies kind of stand out for me. I didn't see this and think, well, I've got to get this for that movie, but it looked like an interesting box set from Vinegar Syndrome. It's got a nice booklet within it, so I thought, well, it's since it's been released, I'll get on that one, and I'll check this out at some point. I do kind of like these like early 70s British thrillers and horror films, if nothing else for the old posh British accent. But yeah, Cruel Britannia, I will check this out at some point and see what it's like. Right, next up from Massacre Video, I may get this title wrong. This is Das Kammerbrutal Duel. This is a German gore film from the late 90s. Gotta say, the cover looks absolutely terrifying. I'm not too sure what to expect in terms of what goes on in this one, but yeah, I've seen a few of these German gore films and they're pretty hard going. They never really have any kind of moments of levity or anything. They're usually quite serious, sort of gory affairs, and this one seems like it'll be the same kind of thing. So yeah, we'll check this one out at some point. If you've seen this one, let me know what you think. But yeah, this one looks like it's going to be pretty heavy. Okay, next up from Vinegar Syndrome. Awesome to see them put this one out. This is the 4K release of Delirium, photos of Gloria, I believe it is, and I haven't seen this one for years and years, but it's a really fun film. It's kind of like a slasher film, bit of a giallo, a little bit kind of sleazy in places, but a little bit stylish at the same time. Really, really kind of crazy mixed bag here from Lamberto Bava. So I'm really looking forward to checking this one out again. I did sort of skim through it the other night, and I have to say the 4K looks absolutely fantastic. The colours in this movie look great. But yeah, if you want to see a bit of a off-the-wall giallo slasher movie, I can definitely recommend Delirium. It's a lot of fun. It's got some good kills in it, like a ton of nudity in this one, and a real kind of kind of like a flashy 1980s sort of decadent look and feel. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to checking out Delirium again. Next up from Severin, I picked up The Devil's Honey. This is another one I watched at the beginning of the month, and I've already forgotten it, to be honest. It's a Lucio Fulci film, which is why I picked this one up. This is more of like a sleazy thriller than anything else. It's this kind of woman, and she gets involved in this guy. He's having like an extramarital affair or something, and it all goes a bit crazy, and she ends up like kidnapping him and terrorizing him and that kind of thing. Bit of like a psycho thriller type movie. It was alright. I enjoyed it slightly more than what I thought I would, but at the same time, I wouldn't go crazy for this film. I probably won't watch it again. I literally just got it because it's Lucio Fulci, but certainly not an absolute must-see when it comes to his movies, I would say. And if you are into like his more gory horror films, I don't think this one will do much for you. But yeah, it was alright for what it was. Next up from TerrorVision, I picked up Dream Stalker. This is like teenage girl or something, and her boyfriend dies in a motorcycle accident, and she's all like grief-stricken and whatnot, but he comes back as this kind of sort of gruesome-looking ghost and starts stalking her and haunting her, and yeah, riding about on this motorcycle. Sounds cool, but again, it's another like shot-on-video movie that's really kind of hampered by its budget limitations. I thought it would be a bit more than what it was. The dead boyfriend, he looks pretty cool. I'll give it that. He did look pretty awesome. This is just one that I think would have been so much better if they'd have had a bit of money to throw at it. But interesting movie, good to see it, because I'd never seen this one before. This one was a pretty much a blind buy. So yeah, it was okay, but yeah, just really limited by its non-existent budget, unfortunately. Next up from Vinegar Syndrome, this is a pretty nice kind of chunky release from them of 8 Eyes. This one, I haven't watched it yet. This is set like somewhere like the Bavarian Alps or somewhere like that, and this sort of travelling couple come across this mysterious, sinister guy, and I think it explores that. Sounds really interesting. I know I read it on the Vinegar Syndrome website and was curious to see it. So yeah, I'll check this one out soon. I think it might have kind of like folk horror sort of elements to it and things like that. So yeah, 8 Eyes, if you've seen it, let me know. Never heard of it until Vinegar Syndrome put it out, but yeah, it does sound like a bit of an interesting one. Next up from Wild Eye, I picked up Evil Nun. I'm really, really sorry guys, I can't even remember this one. Again, I watched it at the beginning of the month. It's one of these kind of low budget anthologies that Wild Eye, they seem to do a few of them now, and they're not bad, they're just kind of pretty standard. So I watched this. I know at the time when I was watching it, it was okay. It kind of delivered on the horror and a few creepy aspects here and there. And anthologies are kind of okay, because if you don't like one bit, you'd soon move on to something else. So I don't think this was a bad movie at all. Just very kind of middle of the road, and I'd sort of seen everything already that they were trying to do. But yeah, it was okay from what I remember. Next up from MVD, I picked up Frostbite. This was a pretty good one. I think this might be a Swedish movie, and it's mainly takes place in this kind of research facility. There's vampires going around sort of killing people, and they sort of infiltrate a few kind of friend groups and things like that. Again, I watched it at the beginning of the month, but I did like it. Again, this one was a bit better than what I expected. So yeah, if you're looking for a bit of a alternative vampire film, this one's set in like a really snowy kind of setting, hence the title, which was pretty cool. Subtitled, but yeah, I did think this was a pretty cool vampire movie. Next up, I picked up Godzilla and Kong, the New Empire. I went to the cinema to see this one. It's alright. I enjoyed it. It looks great. I'll give the movie that. This movie looked incredible. The CGI effects and everything in this are really, really good. The colours in it and things like that are just flawless. So yeah, if you want a big budget kind of glorious looking movie on 4K, this will definitely deliver in that respect. The monster elements are okay. Godzilla was pretty cool. King Kong was okay. I kind of liked the journey that he went on, but you just, I don't know, it was just lacking anything really kind of all that captivating. I'm not sure. And the baby Kong thing in this really annoyed me. He just got on my nerves throughout the whole film. I would like to have seen a bit more just mindless King Kong and Godzilla action. I felt that they humanized them way too much in this film, and they just started to go more for like the feels and the emotive side of things, which I don't want that in a King Kong or Godzilla film. So yeah, not the best entry for me. I didn't like certain elements, but the movie looks great, and it is cool to see King Kong and Godzilla do their thing on the whole. Next up, this is from another Vinegar Syndrome partner label. This is Hotel. This is a German film about this young lady that starts working at this hotel and kind of creepy things start to happen. I liked it, but it's another one of these kind of indie films where nothing happens. They do a great job of creating this sense of impending dread and creating a really good creepy atmosphere, but absolutely nothing happens in the film. She just worked at the hotel, and that's it. There's no other story to tell you. So yeah, again, I didn't know what they were going for. I really thought it would lead to something and build to something, but it doesn't. So I think this will be way too slow for people. I think they'll find it quite an unrewarding watch, as I did, really. I liked it as it went along. I appreciated the acting, the look of the film, the aesthetics, and as I say, the creepy atmosphere that it created, but nothing happens. So take what you will from that. If you want to watch it, then do so, but don't expect anything anything to happen in this one. Next up, from Severin, I picked up the incredibly strange films of Ray Dennis Steckler. So really nice box set here from Severin. I don't even know how many films is in this. It's a 10 disc, 20 incredibly strange films. Now, I've got to admit, I know very little about Ray Dennis Steckler. I don't think I'd ever seen one of his movies, so this will be a good opportunity to check this out. I will crack this open at some point and go through his movies. I still need to go through the Andy Milligan one, so I've got another one to go at here. But yeah, really nice box set from Severin. Beautiful release from them. So looking forward to checking out some real kind of crazy, sleazy looking films from a director that I don't really know much about. Okay, this is an interesting one. From Vinegar Syndrome, I picked up Klaus Kinski's Paganini. So this is a study of the musician Paganini, played by Klaus Kinski, and kind of the ups and downs of him, but ultimately his kind of crazy, decadent lifestyle. The only film, I believe, to be directed by Klaus Kinski as well. So, yeah, can you imagine being directed by Klaus Kinski? That must have been an absolutely insane film shoot. So, yeah, I'm really interested to see what this one's like, what goes on in it, and how Klaus Kinski was as a film director. If I remember, this film did very, very badly, and I don't think Kinski did many more movies after this one because of the reception that this received. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to checking this one out and seeing what it's like. Next up, I picked up Monster of the Universe, an absolutely bonkers mishmash of kind of fantasy, horror, creature feature, sci-fi, but this whole thing is just almost impossible to follow. It's all over the place. There's a few things that go on, not particularly a strong story or anything like that. It wasn't really a great film, and just kind of it moves along from one weird scene to the next. There's a few kind of cool looking creatures in it, and a few like 80s special effects, but yeah, this is a real mess of a film, guys. I didn't particularly enjoy it. It just looked I couldn't I couldn't resist the title, Monster of the Universe, but yeah, boy was this a strange film. Next up from Criterion, I picked up Nanny. I don't think this will be for everyone, but I really enjoyed this one. It's another kind of slow burn film, and it's this woman, she's emigrated to America from Africa, and she takes up a nanny job working for this kind of like affluent white family, and they're kind of nice, but they exploit her at the same time. They don't pay her and they mess her around and things like that. And she's got a young son in Africa that she talks to on the phone, and she's eventually hoping he'll move over and they'll start a life in America and things will be okay for them. And she kind of just sort of slowly starts to see these weird ghostly visions and things like that, and it's kind of tied to a real kind of tragic thing that happens, but I won't go into it, I won't reveal it. But this one, yeah, really interesting film. Like I say, it's a slow one. Well, halfway through, I even Googled to check that this actually was a horror film, but it is. But the movie looks amazing. I love the look of the film. I love the colours of this one. It's a really, really well put together film. I like the character in it. She's interesting. The interactions that she has with people are interesting as well. Some sort of weird, some awkward, some really positive. But yeah, it's all kind of slowly building to the reveal at the end, which is why some of the weird stuff happens later on, and it gets a bit more sort of spooky, shall we say. So yeah, really interesting film, very arty, and yeah, as I say, not for everyone because it's very slow, but a really interesting film and a very different in terms of horror films. It can be quite light on the horror, but when it starts going, it's just an interesting one, quite an intelligent film. I did kind of see where it was going, so it wasn't a absolutely shocking reveal. I was quite proud of myself for working that out, but yeah, I just liked it. I thought it was a pretty good sort of alternative, almost like academically made movie. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Next up from TerrorVision, I picked up President's Day. This is a slasher film from 2010. I really like this one. Set in a high school whilst they're doing like elections for class whatever, and there's a killer going around dressed as a Abraham Lincoln killing people off. For me, this was just like a simply good slasher film. Good setting, okay characters, cool looking killer, and great kills. Like, it's not rocket science. That you throw those things in and I'm more than likely going to enjoy the film. And I did really like President's Day. I thought this was a great slasher film. Next up from SRS, I picked up Sandworld, a movie that on the surface kind of looks like a real massive budget, like Dune style film. But then when you watch it, it's like literally filmed in someone's house. So kind of a sci-fi film. These astronauts land on this alien planet, and there's these like monster worm creatures that go after them, and it gets a bit weird, it gets a bit psychedelic, but really, really low budget. Like the cockpit of the spaceship is like someone's garage, and yeah, you can almost see like the sort of tin foil that they put up around the walls. I didn't hate it, but I think a lot of people will struggle with how kind of crappy this one is, especially because of this overblown big budget looking cover. It is what it is. It's a very, very cheaply made little sci-fi film. Next up, I picked up Sting, the new killer spider film. Oh, I really wanted to like this. I really did. I wasn't into it that much. It's a weird story and it's got some strange characters. It just felt like a weird film and I can't quite put my finger on it. It's this young girl and she gets this spider and kind of raises it, but it becomes giant and starts killing people in this apartment block. I don't know, it just felt strange. Let me know if anyone else kind of got that, but I don't know, something felt off with the film, and I just thought the story could have been a bit better. I thought it could have benefited from being a bit more kind of B-movie-ish. Like all I want is a killer spider killing people, but it threw in a few characters and just sort of weird family drama that was going on. Some of the spider bits are kind of cool. There's some good spider-related deaths. There's some like a bit of like, gooey body horror going on in this one, but it just was just really messed up in this strange kind of family drama. I don't know what it is with this film, but I didn't like it all that much. Yeah, and I really wanted to. So yeah, unfortunately, I wouldn't recommend it. It didn't do anything for me. But let me know if you've seen this one. Let me know what you think of Sting. And my final movie for this month is The Watchers. Don't know much about this one. Literally just saw that this had been released and picked it up. So, looks like a pretty interesting one. Looks pretty creepy. It's Dakota Fanning, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, looking forward to checking this one out soon and seeing what it's like. So that's everything that I got in September, guys. As always, let me know what you think of any of these movies. Any that you like, any that you don't like, let me know. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.